Hi guys, so I thought I'd make another video on things I like, and I know I've done a lot of tank videos before, but I thought I'd make kind of like an introductionary video for people who don't know much about goldfish, because goldfish is one of the things I like. Okay, so from the beginning, why do I like goldfish? I we had a lot of family friends who raised goldfish, kind of like an oriental thing, I don't know. And I always, as a kid, was fascinated by them. I always thought they looked really goofy. I didn't know they were goldfish, to be quite honest. I just thought they were just weird-looking fish. Because everybody, when they think of goldfish, they think of the stereotypical looking goldfish you see in cartoons that are in a little bowl. Yeah, I didn't know all the varieties of goldfish, and I just find it quite fascinating. I find them much more like pets than my marine fish. These things have personality, I find, and they recognize me, they know me. So, where to begin? Okay, so goldfish are a type of carp, and carp are originally bred for food. And carp are quite dull in color. They get to be about 12 inches long. They're kind of a gray, black-looking thing, and but they're originally bred for food, and what was noticed is that they're quite prone to having genetic mutations, and one common mutation in the carp was that they would be gold, kind of an orange, really bright orange color. So I believe it was the Chinese who were the first to actually try to breed these goldfish as pets, and originally common people couldn't even keep them. Only, I think, like emperors could keep goldfish or something like that, because it's good luck or whatever. And from there, all sorts of other different fish have been bred from the carp. So these are all goldfish. Specifically, these are what we call fancy goldfish, and I'll kind of explain what that is in a second. Fancy goldfish have all in common. They have kind of like this football-looking shape. They're not long and skinny. They're more football-y, kind of a compressed body. You'll also notice that their tails are double tails. They're quite long. See how their tails actually have two fins there? Two fins. Two fins. Kind of hard to see. Two fins. Come on, turn. There we go. Two fins. So what do I have in this tank? These three are orandas. Orandas are one of the larger fancy goldfish. And they all have this characteristic head growth, or wen. It's like a kind of a bubbly thing. My wife absolutely hates it. She thinks it looks like their brain is showing or something. I think it looks cute. So this is a blue oranda. That is my red and white oranda, juvenile, so you don't see much head growth yet. And that is my red cap, which is now my oldest fish that I've got. And he's acting kind of weird. Sorry about that, because I accidentally fed him a little bit too much. It's Friday before Canada Day long weekend, so I kind of accidentally gave him to it. So he's kind of stuffed and he's kind of floating a bit weird. But he'll be okay after a few days, because they're not getting fed for like 3 days. Okay, so those three are orandas. This is a black moor, characteristic because it's black, and it's got these googly eyes. And if you see my other videos, you know I've talked about him. I got him from another teacher down the hall, and he's quite large. It's a she. She's been laying eggs. She hasn't grown much, but she's kind of just big to begin with, whereas the other three are constantly growing. Okay, so what do I have to do to take care of them? Well, if you're interested, I'm going to kind of go through the things I've learned on the internet from other people over the last couple of years that I've been raising these things. First of all, if you want to get a goldfish, you can't keep them in a bowl. They produce a lot of waste, more so than pretty much any other fish. And if you ask anybody, they'll say the goldfish are very messy fish. That's because they don't have stomachs per se. They just kind of have a very long intestine. So as soon as they eat something, they're pooping it out or peeing it out right away. They don't have a very efficient digestive system. So because of that, the water that they're in typically gets polluted quite quickly. Because of this also, they are also more tolerant of ammonia than other fish are. That's why you don't keep goldfish with any other fish. You kind of let goldfish stay in their own tank. Okay, so what do you kind of have to run a goldfish tank? Ideally, okay, and I'm not some kind of white knight, who's going to get angry at people for doing this wrong, because I get it, okay, you're new at this. You want to have 10 gallons per fancy goldfish. So this is a 55-gallon tank. I could technically have 5 in here, but I choose to have 4 because, more space for them. So you want to have about 10 gallons of fish, and you want to have twice as much filtration as necessary for the tank that you have. So what I mean by that is, if you look at the back of my tank, I have these filters. And this filter here is an AquaClear 110. It's designed for up to a 110-gallon tank. Since this is only a 55, this is double the filtration that I need. That's exactly what I need for a goldfish tank. And I have bamboo growing in there. On top of this tank, I also have an AquaClear 30, an AquaClear 20, and a sponge filter. It just kind of bubbles and sucks in junk onto the sponge part. Why do I have more than the 110? Because more is better. It's always better to have more than to have less. Right? It keeps the water cleaner. Right? Because even though the 110 is technically all I need, I still need to have more. It just makes my life easier. Okay, so that's the basics. You need 10 gallons per fish, and you need twice as much filtration as the tank is necessary. That's it. Anything else, the plants, not necessary. Lights, not even necessary. I don't have lights running in my other tank. And I have bubblers, just whatever, just make it look cool. But other than that, all you need is 10 gallons per fish, twice as much filtration. Now, a lot of my students who get fish, they don't know about the nitrogen cycle. So let me kind of explain what that is, because I didn't really know this very well as a kid, and that's why a lot of my fish died. The nitrogen cycle, okay, so what do the fish do? The fish create a lot of waste. So a lot of the bulk of that waste is what we call ammonia. And ammonia gets released into the water from the fish, from them just peeing into the water or going through their skin. And high levels of ammonia are very toxic to fish, and the fish will die if the ammonia level gets out of hand. So when you first put a fish into a new aquarium, ammonia levels will just skyrocket because there's nothing to do about the ammonia. After a few weeks, though, this bacteria will start to grow in your tank. Specifically, it'll grow in your filters. That's what your filters are for. Is bacteria will grow inside all your filters, and everything all over the tank, the glass, the rocks, anything. This bacteria will start to grow, and what the bacteria does is it eats the ammonia. It eats all the ammonia up and produces a second type of chemical called nitrite. Nitrite is also toxic to the fish, but not as toxic as ammonia is. And the nitrite levels will start to shoot up, and the ammonia levels start to go down. But now you've got this not as toxic, but still toxic chemical in the water called nitrite. All the ammonia being produced by the fish now get converted to nitrite almost immediately. So what happens now? Well, what's going to happen after another few weeks is another bacteria will start to grow that eats the nitrite and produces nitrate. And nitrate is the least toxic of the three, but it's still toxic to the fish, but just not as bad. They can survive with nitrate in the water, just not very, very high levels of it. And unfortunately, there is no bacteria that eats nitrate. Nitrate is kind of there to stay. So how do you deal with the nitrate if it's toxic? Well, plants will absorb nitrate. That's actually why I have the bamboo growing here, because it absorbs the nitrate. And inside the tank as well, I have plants growing in it. They absorb nitrate. It helps them grow, so it's kind of a win-win thing. But unfortunately, they just don't absorb enough of the nitrate that I can just leave the water alone. So in order to also deal with the nitrate levels, every goldfish owner, no matter how much filtration you got to also have water changes. So twice a week, I change about 50% of the water in the tank, so about 30 gallons. So how do I do this? I go down to the janitor's room, I fill up 6 buckets of water. I let it sit for at least 24 hours to allow any chlorine in the water to evaporate and to let it reach room temperature. And then once it's reached room temperature the next day, I'll suck out 50% of the water using a siphon and just dump these buckets in. And that removes the excess nitrate. I gotta do it twice a week. I'd like to do less. I'm going to see if I can get away with it, but every time I've tried to do less than twice a week, it hasn't worked out very well. So that's what I got to do. Typically, people will have a sink near them, and they can just siphon out all the water, dump it in the sink, and then just pour water in using a hose from attached to their sink. But I don't have a sink. I got to use buckets, unfortunately. So it's a labor of love. It's a little bit harder, but these things are a lot of fun, so I don't mind doing it. So that's it. And as far as food is concerned, if you're also interested in feeding, raising fish, and what do you feed them? Well, I know you guys see this stuff all around a lot. So here's my drawer of stuff. You'll see this stuff a lot. Flake food. Yeah, I don't buy this stuff. I got this from somebody else. They just gave it to me. Flake food's not the best for fancy fish. Fancy goldfish, the problem is if you put in the flake food, it kind of floats on the surface of the water. Floating food and any other food that floats on the surface is bad for fancy fish, because what happens is when the fish go to get the food, they'll swallow it, but they'll also swallow air at the same time. And you'll notice that these bodies are quite scrunched up. They're like little footballs. Because of this, leave them alone. Because of this, because of the scrunched up bodies, the intestines are constantly pushing up against what we call a swim bladder. And if they swallow too much air, their swim bladder gets pressed against, and the fish will start to float. You'll have this problem where the fish are kind of stuck to the surface. In fact, that's kind of what's happening to my red cap right now. I accidentally gave him too much food. So now, because he's so stuffed, his intestines are pushing up against his swim bladder, causing him to float. You'll see that he's going to just start floating. See? And he'll get exhausted, and he'll just stay at the surface. This is not typical. It's only today because I gave him too much food. That's why he's floating. He'll be fine in a few hours, and I just hope the blue guy just leaves him alone, doesn't rip up his fins, because typically they do get along. But yeah, if it gets really severe by feeding them junk food, like flake food and stuff, they get to the point where they actually never stop floating, and they'll start floating upside down, and then they will eventually die. So what do I feed these guys? Their main diet consists of what we call gel food. I purchased it online from Goldfish Utopia. You can make your own. Just go online, look up goldfish gel food, and it's just kind of like a paste. And all I do is I roll up little balls of it, and I toss it in there, and they eat that stuff. And what else do I give them? You give them peas. Peas are very good. In fact, peas are like a natural diuretic for goldfish. It clears out their system. So I'll boil some peas, chop them up, throw them in there. They love it. If I don't have time to do all that, I feed them hikari. It's a well-known Japanese brand. A little expensive. You can find it online cheaper. I just buy it from my local fish store because, support local business kind of thing, right? This stuff's really good. It's just little pellets, and it sinks. You'll notice that I buy the sinking stuff. Never buy the floating stuff for your fancy goldfish. And yeah, so in a week, what do I do? Oh, how do I feed them? I feed them, because I'm around the tank all day long, I feed them tiny amounts throughout the day. Most people will just feed their fish once a day, because that's conveniently for them. Just don't give them too much food like I did today, because they don't understand when they're full. They will keep eating, even if they are full. They just are designed to constantly feed, and that could be really bad for them. Case in point. So either feed them once a day, or feed them little bits throughout the day. It's better for them. And I don't know if I mentioned it in this take or not, but yeah, I like them a lot because I find that they have a lot more personality and are more like pets than my marine fish. My marine fish are more like pretty decorations, but these guys, they feel more like pets. Like if I go in here, let's see. In the mornings, and anyone who else raises goldfish will tell you the exact same thing. When I come in here, they know who I am. They come up to the glass right away, and they're asking for food. Right? it's gotten to the point now that when I put my hand in there to handle anything, move things around, they'll come up to me and start, mouthing my hand, or they don't mind me going in there, and so they're more like pets, which I like. Anyway, so that's the gist of goldfish keeping. Goldfish are definitely one of the things I like. My next video will be about my new tropical tank that has a Jack Dempsey cichlid. I'll also talk about my common goldfish pond that I keep at home. Thanks for watching.